Alright, rainy Memorial Day garden tour. So this is the house. There's the garage, the brush pile. Um, Along the sidewalk here, these are some wild type Japanese mountain daylilies. Um, Hemerocallis Middendorfii, variety esculenta, which is the flowers are eaten in Japan. Very nice. They bloom a little earlier than my other daylilies, which are all over here. This is a dwarf beach plum, Prunus maritima. It's a native shrub that does really well in the dry roadside conditions. There's a second one off to the side there. This is a row of giant yellow daylilies. I eat a lot of these in the summer because they're a very nice vegetable. I'm going to be planting right in front of them here pink dandelions, which are very pretty and also edible. This right here is the 5-leaf Aurelia hedge. It's 28 plants at 1 foot spacing that goes all the way back there. Then we have an elegant cornelian cherry and a Nanking cherry. This one has the white fruit. The Nanking cherry gets hit with some kind of disease, so it's very awkwardly pruned right now because I have to prune out all the diseased wood. I might replace this one and that one with some beach plums at some point. Going through the arch, these are all garlic chives, Allium tuberosum. I need to widen this out because I wasn't planning on having this arch here. It just kind of happened. So these are going to move under the Nanking cherries on either side. And I'm going to be planting a Scasandra vine over this arch here very soon. These are some what are they called? Variegated comfrey plants, which don't really belong here now. So I have to figure out what I'm doing with those. There's a little anise hyssop, which will hopefully turn into a nice patch. They have really gorgeous flowers, and they do appreciate a little shade in this area. This is the other cornelian cherry. This is a yellow fruited one, and there's a good amount of fruit forming on it this year, which is very nice. I actually just moved these this spring, this one and the other one, because I need this path clear so I can prune the hedge. Speaking of the hedge, all this new growth can be harvested any time of year, so I gotta come through and trim this off and make dinner sometime. There's a patch of Turkish rocket that just got planted here, which has nice edible little broccolis. This is a persimmon. This is a persimmon tree, which has 2 varieties. The bottom half is Zucchus, which is a weird female variety that makes male flowers. And I grafted this taller spike in the middle is molar. So I'm hoping that one will basically take off and become the new dominant part of the tree, because that one has really nice fruit that falls freely when it's ripe. Along this path around the side of the building, these are Miyoga ginger, which I just planted last fall. There's 4 of them, so hopefully these will fill in and line the path very nicely. It's a very tropical looking plant, which has ginger flavored edible flowers. This here is the Chinese yam climbing up this lattice. It's a little too vigorous for this spot, and it also it has spread a bit around. It has a nice edible underground tuber, very tasty, and it makes all these little miniature potatoes on the vine later in the season, which you can harvest. But yeah, I need to thin this patch out and center it a little better. This is another persimmon, American persimmon. This is John Rick, which is one of my favorites. Very productive tree. Good amount of large fruit and very good flavor. And this is a female American spice bush, which is more of an herb plant. It'll get quite large, and I just planted it this spring, so it's still getting established. So if you follow this path straight from the sidewalk back, this along the side is going to be cut leaf coneflower, which is what you can see in here now, also known as sochan. It's a traditional Native American vegetable. In between them, where these spikes, these stakes are, is going to be cow parsnip. But I have to move that from a different area of the yard. There's only one small one in here. The idea here is that you don't want to really touch the cow parsnip because it can cause burns on your skin, even though it is edible. So I wanted a little barrier around that, but also the cut leaf coneflower appreciates the railing to lean on because it gets about 8 feet tall. It starts flopping all over the place. So I'm hoping the barrier will kind of keep it out of the path. We will see. These are growing very nicely this year after being transplanted last year. I have a little collection of shrubs that need to go in here. This is a male spice bush to pair with the female one over there. And this is a dead man's fingers Decasnia fargesii blue bean tree. It makes a blue bean pod that's tasty and edible. So this has to get planted too still. This area here next to the air conditioner is the root vegetable area. So these big plants here, 1, 2, 3, and then there's a little one over here. This is skirret. It's really delicious perennial vegetable. Root tastes kind of similar to parsnip or carrot. So I might plant even more of this because it's so good. And then it has a ground cover of Chinese mint root, which is an odd little mild tasting root. You can see it's really filling in here. And then on this trellis is groundnut, which also it's a native plant that has an edible tuber. Very vigorous. It's still working its way up the trellis. And in the back here, I planted a row of honewort, which is like a native parsley almost. Cryptotania canadensis. And in the corner is wild ginger, which I really need to remove, put somewhere else because it's kind of smothering the air conditioner a little bit. I think what I'm going to do is actually put down some plastic underneath this area so that all of this mint root doesn't just take over in this area next to the rain barrels here. So a lot of these plants appreciate extra water. So I'm going to be running this tube into the ground a little bit to kind of give the skirret, the groundnut, and the mint root the extra water that they really want in the summertime. So these are walking onions right now, surrounded by violets. The plan was originally strawberries, but the violets had taken over, and they are very difficult to remove. This is a medlar tree here, which is very healthy this year, and the flowers are just giving way to the forming fruits now. Very fuzzy, odd little fruits. There's still some good looking flowers on here right now. The leaves are long and fuzzy, which is really nice. And if we go around this side, I grafted a fancy new variety, Scraw number 2, which came from the country of Georgia, on here. I'm looking to get this on its own roots pretty next year. I tried this year, but I didn't succeed. So we'll have some good scionwood next year to graft onto a rootstock. The patio area, got these big vinyl trellis here. Here's some more comfrey. This is Bocking 14, which is the sterile Russian variety. I think it's Russian. And so I'll chop that shortly after the flowers fade and use that as a mulch around the garden. Have some honeyberries that I just planted. This is Boreal Blizzard, Boreal Beast, and Boreal Beauty. These are kind of like a very early blueberry-esque fruit. Really no, low maintenance shrub. The only thing is you got to protect the fruit from the birds, which should be easier to do kind of closer in this more uh, lived in area here. Um, there's a ground cover here of my favorite strawberry. This is Hawaii 4 running white strawberry. It's actually from the Hawaiian Islands where it was discovered just in the wild. It makes these little tiny white strawberries. These are actually a little smaller than they get bigger than this, but the first flush in the spring can be on the small side. And you can see there's just all these little strawberries, and it's a running variety. So, oh, this one looks pretty good here. There's just a little strawberries. It's a running variety, so it'll fill in this whole bed. The only reason it hasn't already is because I actually dug up some big shrubs that were in here previously this spring. So it's still working its way back through. Got some elephant garlic I'm trialing over here. I just planted a row of ostrich ferns, which you may know from fiddleheads. These are hopefully going to do okay with this overhang, which blocks some of the water. But if not, the hose hookup is right here, so I figured I can water these a bit more often. And on the end here is Ligularia fischeri, which is a Korean edible plant. It has very nice big leaves, and it has also nice big yellow flower stalk. So that'll provide a little more accent to the end of the row here, and it's also right in front of my bedroom window, so I can see the flower when it blooms. I have this drainage ditch here which I need to recuperate. It's kind of in bad shape. Gotta dig that back out and use some better rocks and things here. The reason I have this ditch here is because I have 2 pawpaw trees, one on each side. This one is Shenandoah, very, very healthy. It's actually looking set up to have the best fruit set ever here. You can see all these little pawpaw fruits. This cluster has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And these clusters are just all over the tree this year. You can see there's a little cluster there. There's clusters, you can see them all from here. So this is looking to be a pretty historic pawpaw year. And I keep this one trimmed at about 8 feet tall. You can see that one little branch right at the top where it's pushing new growth. A lot of people online were like, Kyle, you can't trim it that short, but it's been very successful for me and I can reach all the fruit, so I'm happy with it. Probably going to be planting some ground cover plants under this one now that the shade is kind of established here. That one was Shenandoah. This one is Allegheny, which I grafted myself. There were some difficulties though, because you could see that it has a very flat shape. It's because there was a branch to the front on this side and there was a branch to the back on that side, which I just pruned off in the fall because I was worried about the tree splitting in 3. So this one's kind of struggling right now, but it should start filling in this season. There's already growth sort of pushing in this frontward direction and in this backward direction. So, and I removed all the forming fruit from this, so it should just be focusing solely on vegetative growth here, which will be really good. All right, so on this side here, this is the Chinese tune tree. Has really tasty chicken soup flavored leaves. I just hacked this back to about 4 feet. It was way up there. It was like 12 feet tall, but you can see it's already putting out. This shoot right here is all new growth in the last 2 weeks, and you could still harvest all the new growth now. But I like to let it do its thing and fill back in, be healthy. Moving into the back, this area is very weedy right here. It's one of my project areas that I need to just clear this whole thing out. These cow parsnips, this one, that one, and the other one, all need to go back over there where I pointed out earlier that I need to put more cow parsnip. This one's just starting to flower now, so I'm gonna have to chop that back afterward because these will self-seed like crazy. But very delicious native vegetable plant. It was widely used by Native Americans, and it's one of the most delicious things I've tasted for sure. Has a very unique like Indian spice flavor. This right here is a patch of Korean asters, which are used as a vegetable in Korea. They kind of self-seeded a little crazy over here. So I relocated my favorite one, which has red stems. That's what that hole right there is. And I'm going to be just removing all these because I put the other one got moved into an area where it can self-seed around, and I don't have to worry about it. These are some blue eddy alliums. It's kind of like a chive, very mild but ornamental. And this plant I'm really excited about this year. This is Codonopsis lanceolata. It's a the Korean name is geoduk. It's a root vegetable from Korea, but also these leaves are very mild and edible. It's a perennial vegetable. It has gorgeous flowers. The common name is bonnet bellflower, and the flowers are just gorgeous with like a maroon inside. So I'm really excited that it's doing well here because I planted this last fall. It didn't look too good. It's still got a ways to go to get to the top, but it'll get there. This whole bed here, you can see there's one of these trellises in each corner. In the middle there's going to be a mulberry tree, which I still need to go get. And I've planted, you can see these little guys, I've planted some of that Hawaii strawberry around the tree, so this will fill in as a ground cover because you can see I'm already having some issues with weeds in some areas, so I need something better to cover the surface here. I'm going to be planting a cranberry cordifolia here. It's a big, giant, like, kale plant, perennial kale plant. To pair it up with this mammoth rhubarb that I got, thanks Little John, which has, it was like one little tiny leaf this spring, and it's already doing really well. It just seems to thrive with as much water as I can give it. I'm hoping the red stalks of this will contrast with this golden hops plant here, which has had no problem clearing the top of this trellis. I need to snip off some of those shoots. The hops vine, the shoots of the hops vine are actually considered like a delicacy in like France and other parts of Europe. So what I like do with this one is I just harvest all the shoots as much as I possibly can, and it just responds by growing more and more. And it's very aesthetically pleasing golden leaves. I have some red leaf sorrel underneath it again for that like color contrast. This little alleyway here, I'm going to be planting some perennial vegetables on both sides, which I haven't really gotten to yet. This is a jostaberry, very nice jostaberry. I moved this one in the fall because it was in this little bed here, and you could see it just really outgrew it. It wants to spread out. So I gave this its own spot, and there's another little baby comfrey at the base. And here's the other jostaberry. I like them. I like these jostaberries a lot. They're very easy, very productive, and they taste good. So I got two of them. This is a Koza dogwood to like ground this bed, this bed is a big square. But the two jostaberries on the side. I have two other shrubs where you see the orange stakes. We'll see those in a minute. But weirdly, the Koza dogwood is not flowering this year. I think it's just focusing on filling in, which is fine by me because I want it to get nice and large and beautiful. These little tiny guys are my Asian bladdernut plants, Staphylia bumalda, which has edible leaves that are really delicious, and I am just protecting them for dear life here because the seed is extremely hard to germinate. So I got this one little one here and another bigger one here, and these are eventually going to get about 6 to 10 feet tall. So you can see I gave them a lot of space kind of in this corner of the bed and in that corner of the bed. Here are some native alliums that I collected. This is Allium canadense. I don't know what the common name is. It wild garlic or yeah, but this is a really choice edible native onion. It's shade tolerant, and you can see it's actually producing. Looks like it's going to produce a couple little flowers, but mostly they just produce bulbils. It's like, and you could propagate them by collecting the bulbils that it produces at the top. But it does make a couple little flowers every once in a while. And this corner of the bed is going to be very shaded by this mulberry tree that will be going in there. So I'm going to be growing Caucasian spinach vine, which likes shade, in this corner. All of these trellises will have perennial plants with edible leaves, perennial vines with edible leaves, herbaceous perennial ones. So they all die back in the winter. This corner here, this is Smilax herbacea. It's called smooth carrion flower. This is another native plant, native vegetable plant. The shoots can get really, really big in the spring once it's established, and they're very asparagus-like. I know people say that a lot about a lot of things, but this one is like really, really good. But this plant is just still a baby. I have this little plastic piece around it just because I'm concerned about rabbits and stuff eating it. It also helps to warm it up in the spring and give it a head start. But it is starting to climb, just barely. So I'm hoping that'll put on even more growth and get more established this spring. This here is my aronia berry hedge. 7 plants. The variety is Rain Tree Select, which has better tasting berries than the more commonly available Viking and Nero. And these are already set, like so many berries. So many berries. The hardest part is just harvesting them. There's so many of them. But they freeze really well, and you could even dry them, so I gotta make sure I harvest enough this year. The only issue is the weeds are starting to take over under there. So I really want to clear out that understory and get a native ground cover planted under there. It's one of the projects I'm still working on. This big old monster here is the Aurelia elata, Japanese angelica tree, and it's a 10 foot by 10 foot square rhizome barrier here, and just trying to keep it under control. It's already grown beautifully this spring. I pruned it out a little bit in the winter. The spring shoots, which, I mean, this is sort of what they look like, but on a bigger scale. The spring shoots are edible. Yeah, they're very spiny looking now, but the spring shoots, you could even see the spines are not actually hard yet. So anything where the spines aren't hard, you could technically cook and eat. It's also just a really unique and beautiful looking plant with the tripinnate foliage. The area next to here I am just clearing out because I had a raspberry patch in the middle there, and the weeds just took over underneath the raspberries, so really trying to get a fresh start in there. This mound here used to be an old oak stump, and I piled up some topsoil around it, and so I'm going to make it into a little herb spiral up here, which will be nice because it's right at the end of a path too, so it'll be like a centralizing feature in the garden. In this far corner, I'm still working on some stuff here. This is a rare Eleuthero species from Korea. I had more Aronia back here, but it's shadier in this little nook against the stone wall, so the Eleuthero will do a lot better. These are all spiky plants that I have in this corner. They're going to get spread out across the length of this back area. This is called the danger garden, where all the spiky plants go. I've put in a hedge of this Lindera angustifolia, which is a really nice Asian spice bush, and the leaves hang on it all fall, and it gets like 16 feet tall, so it'll really like make my property, once it gets big, it'll make this back line of the property much more private. Here's a female sea buckthorn, which is actually making fruit for the first time this year. I'm excited about that. It's little orange like citrus-like fruit, which is really really nice, but it suckers a lot. So this one is going to get moved over here, so it's next to this rhizome barrier, which will kind of stop it from going in that direction at least. This is a edible leaf goji that still needs to go in the ground. Because this whole bed is going to be redone, I've been hesitant to really stick it in the ground, but it's doing very, very well. This is Lycium chinense. See the bigger leaves, and you could just harvest. You snap these shoots off, and you can just cook them, and they're delicious. It's another edible leaf goji. This one hasn't done very well for me, but this year it actually does look like it's kind of taken off, so I might have to move that too. These are poor man gooseberries, really, really delicious. I had never tried a gooseberry, so I had to plant them so that I could taste them last year, and now that I know that I like them, I'm going to be planting a lot more. This is a che. It's a small edible landscaping seedless che fruit. It's a really weird fruit that looks like a little brain, tastes like watermelon. Really, really interesting. These are another gooseberries that have to get out of here. So I planted this che tree, and then one jujube and another jujube, also known as Chinese date. It's a really nice, kind of like a dry apple. These are select varieties that will fruit much earlier in the season, so they should ripen in time in our climate. And this one is Autumn Beauty, which is a little semi-dwarf, and that one is Black Sea, which will be a little bit more normal sized. It's got a little bit of dieback. These just got planted. I don't know if it's too much moisture or what, but they're known to be very vigorous, so hopefully it'll just come right back. Here's a little ground cover raspberry that I'm planting, which will hopefully fill in. This is Rubus parvifolius lemon lace. Got the last one at the nursery, so I got to propagate my own to hopefully fill in this whole bed with this nice little yellow ground cover raspberry. This right here is a row of Cephalotaxis fortunae. It's the Chinese plum-yew. They have these gorgeous long needles, and I grew these from seed in 2020. They're very, very slow growing. Like they're just about above my knee now at this point. And you can see this one's a little bit fluffier than the other two. They don't really like the full sun, but this corner of the yard was under the shade of two big trees here. So now with those trees came down, so these are in full sun. They are putting on a bit more growth though, a bit more rapidly, but they do dry out in the summer a bit. This is like a little native corner here with American bladdernut, Staphylia trifolia, and sassafras, which was already here when I moved in. I actually chopped it to the ground, and you could see how it reformed with 3 stalks, and now I keep it as a large shrub because it makes a nice barrier screen to my neighbor's house there. I just planted a little large-leafed aster under here, which will fill in and be a ground cover in this bed. Little compost operation. All these logs that I kind of rotten out. A lot of them were old mushroom logs. This is Caucasian mountain spinach, Hoblitzia tamnoides, and it's just it's a herbaceous perennial vine, and all these leaves are just delicious, just like spinach. And right now it's starting to go to flower, so this is past the peak harvest time now, and you could just look at how productive it is on this frame of the compost bed here. This one is going to get moved over to that trellis right there once the mulberry gets big enough to shade it out, because it really doesn't like just being in full sun. It's more of a woodland shade plant. This right here is Virginia waterleaf. It's a nice native wildflower with edible leaves. It's in the borage family. Let's see if there's any water leaves with the water pattern on them. Yeah, it has these beautiful patterns on the leaves when they first emerge, and the flowers are also just gorgeous and loved by bees. So I need to propagate more of this. Again, this whole bed here This whole bed was in the shade before, and this plant likes the shade, but now it can die back in the summer because it gets too hot. This is my little tiny shed. I'm going to be getting a bigger shed at some point soon, and this whole area will be the new shed area, and I'll move the compost areas up to where the current shed is. This is Mahonia aquifolium. This is Oregon grape. It's a gorgeous evergreen plant in the barberry family. Very, very pointy, sharp leaves, and it can burn a little in the sun. But this one's making fruit for the first time this year, which is really nice. I'll get to try those at least. I'm not sure if I want to keep these or not, because again, they're very sharp, and they're kind of temperamental in our climate. They really want to be in like the Pacific Northwest or like England or something where the weather is milder. This is a new gumi plant, and there's another one here. This one is doing very poorly. I think some Japanese beetles got the foliage or something, but I'm hoping it'll bounce back, especially because it's raining right now. And these will fill in this whole bed here and will act like a good screen, especially in case this neighbor's fence comes down. It's a little, it'll be nice to have them in here. Little picnic area. This might be where I put my greenhouse in the future. It's kind of an area that I've left undeveloped so far. We're back to the Egyptian walking onions here, where the medlar tree is. And I love to harvest these shoots. It's such an interesting plant because you could harvest the first set of shoots, the second set of shoots, and then a third set even forms a lot of the time. I have planted another medlar tree that I grafted of that rare variety Scraw number 2 here, but it didn't really work out. I think it's just dead. So I will have to try again in the winter. And let's see. We'll go around the other side of the house. These are all plants that need new homes. I have a Facebook post about it. This is a new plant I'm trialing. It's called Pachyphragma macrophyllum. It's like a large leafed perennial ground cover mustard plant. So it's in its own little spot here just to try it out. You can say hi to Andy in the window. He's very noisy. Very, very noisy cat. So there's going to be a little bridge over this river too. On this side of the house, I haven't done that much because I got to do some work on the base of the house. This is another che tree. This one is a male and female grafted together. These are all the male flowers forming right now, and the female flowers are forming on this branch. I think I prefer the seedless one, which is self-fertile, which I showed earlier, because this one is very difficult to prune. The male side wants to grow much faster than the female side. So you have this constant like give and take of like trying to cut it back but not cut back too much and keep track of both sides. So having a self-fertile one is kind of preferred. This is a sunchoke bed, which I had some help digging up recently because I don't really like sunchokes. It's a root vegetable, kind of causes some bloating issue. Here is, so this is a little more ornamental bed in the front because it's more visible. This is clove currants. This one is crandall. And there's some, you can see all the currants forming. They have a very delicious taste and they have beautiful flowers that are yellow and red. This is a ground cover raspberry. It looks, you can see all these flower buds forming. It should be really pretty soon. I'm just hoping it'll fill in the bed a little bit because it's got a lot of space to grow. And this is another clove currant to pair with the other one. Having two is supposed to help with pollination. There's another ground cover raspberry. This is Japanese flowering quince, Canamales japonica. It's a very short version of flowering quince. It only gets 3 feet tall and 6 feet wide. It has really nice, very fragrant quince, small quince fruits like the size of golf balls. There were some forming on here, but you know, I don't see them right now, so maybe they aborted. But I have these caged off because the rabbits like to eat all the new growth. Got a little cat mint over there for Andy. So this is Turkestan onion. It's an ornamental onion, Allium carataviense. This is gonna just be a cute little thing in the end. I need to plant out this whole bed with perennial wildflowers. It's very empty right now. I have these 2 arches where I'm going to be growing hardy kiwi vines. I'm going to put the male in the front on this one because it's more ornamental, and the female will go on here. I just picked these plants up actually from Broken Arrow Nursery. This is Aurelia cordata, also known as udo. It's a nice perennial vegetable from Japan, and it's in a sheltered spot here because it really doesn't like a lot of wind on the leaves. It's also kind of a little shady area. This is Rubus tricolor. It's a evergreen, it's Taiwanese. Is this the Taiwanese one? No, this is Chinese. Evergreen Chinese raspberry. I have it here and here because it should help pollinate those raspberries over there because they often suffer from a lack of pollination, which they need to produce fruit. So I'm hoping that these will do the job for that. Here's my big pile of plants yet to go in the ground. The Chinese quince tree that I grew from seed, it's kind of suffering from some disease issues this year. Korean celery, which is a really nice perennial celery. You can harvest all year. Lovage. Another Aurelia. I got some New England asters, primrose, creeping bellflower. The mallow is flowering, but also kind of devastated by that really hot weather we had yesterday. Japanese raisin tree, which I have no place for. Just a whole bunch of little things. This front area is dominated by this giant red maple tree, which makes growing anything under here extremely difficult because the roots are very close to the surface and they suck a lot of moisture out of plants. So on this little path I have these 2 Sun King Aurelias, which will get about 3 feet wide, and they produce a nice edible vegetable in the spring. You know, why not put a bench in the spot where you can't grow anything? This is purple Mitsuba, which I'm going to plant in here. It tends to self-seed very aggressively, so you have to really site it in a good spot. I figure the purple and the yellow would be, and the green, well, it'll add some nice contrast in here. This is a Chinese plum-yew, the same as those 3 little ones from the back, but this one is much bigger and more established, and these can get very large. This is a male, Cephalotaxis fortunae. It's one of my favorite plants. I just love this long, feathery foliage. It struggled for the first year or 2 because it's not the hardiest thing, and it doesn't like a lot of sun, but it's right underneath this maple tree, so it's actually been doing really great. And I have, on the other side, I have a female. This one produces really nice edible fruits. Really tasty. They taste like longan. Oh, look, here's some fruits forming right here. Beautiful. Yeah, they're like sort of like little plums with one single seed, and they taste like, what's that fruit? Rambutan. They taste a little bit like rambutan. It's like or lychee. It's like a mild sort of tropical flavor. Over here, I have more of these 5-leaf Aurelias, which are doing really well. I had planted spicebush and some other native plants under this maple tree, and they all died in the full shade, dry full shade. So these are very strong growers, so they're going to eventually form like a nice big mound of like 6 feet tall and wide, probably even wider. But I'm very happy with that because that'll make like a nice little enclosed area for this bench. This is Calopanax septimlobus. It's a castor Aurelia. This one I found in the wild in upstate New York. I just really liked the leaf form on this. It has edible leaves. It eventually gets very large, but I'm gonna chop it at about, I don't know, 6 to 8 feet. And here's the other Korean aster I put up here. So I'm gonna just let it spread around in this bed because it has really gorgeous flower clusters, like 6 feet tall. That'll be really nice up here. I got some hostas. Hostas are edible. This is a variegated version of the 5-leaf Aurelia. It's more here for accent. It doesn't really taste very good. The leaves don't taste as good as the normal 5-leaf Aurelia. I have some of these Polygonatum and Mayanthemum. These are the Solomon seal and the false Solomon seal. These have to get planted in the front where it's very shady. I just have to figure out how I'm going to lay those out. Another hosta. This is my big castor Aurelia. It wasn't that big until this year, but you can see these gorgeous hand-shaped leaves. One of my favorite plants. So it's right along the driveway here where I can see it, and the same thing with the Chinese plum yew. I can see them all the time. This is a thornless Korean thistle, which is edible, and apparently very delicious. And I have it just protected because I'm worried about rabbits eating it. But it is taking off this year, and hopefully it'll grow up real big and make some flowers and stuff. Excited to try this one. There's some little mountain mints that are going to be going in the front. All right, so the last bit, we looked over there where the beach plums are. The last bit here is the mailbox area, the hell strip. This is a nice big yucca, actually forming a nice flower stalk right now. And these are native cactus species. Opuntia cespitosa has these really big stabby spines. And then Opuntia humifusa does not have them. This one has yellow flowers, this one has yellow and red, which are really gorgeous. This is a Grollo Rus aromatica. It's native, what is it called? Sumac, ground-hugging sumac. This is a redbud tree. This is the rising sun. It has multicolored leaves. This is a female sumac. The berries are used to make like a lemonade-like drink. So this one is supposed to be male. I'm not sure about that. And this one is known female, so hopefully I'll get some little berries and make some drinks. We got some common milkweed. This is bayberry. This one's still very small. We got Ohio spiderwort, which is very, very happy this year. It's so big now, almost a little too big. And New Jersey tea behind it. And this is Allium cernum. It's our native nodding onion. Monarda fistulosa, and a sweet fern on the end. So this whole bed in the front, this hell strip here area, is all native plants and a few native wildflowers. It's just really nice, especially now that it's sort of filled in. I like to use these native small nitrogen fixing shrubs like the bayberry and the New Jersey tea and the sweet fern. They do really well in the hell strip, and if they get smashed by snow, they just grow right back. The same thing with the beach plums, which are down there. But all right, that's it. It's getting a little too wet out here, so I think I'm gonna have to stop, but it's a big work in progress. And oh, I didn't even show the hostas over here. This is a hosta called Blue Perfection, which has very fragrant flowers. I'm excited about these. I planted Pachysandra, which it's a little known fact that the Pachysandra has edible berries. So I planted two different kinds. See, this is a cut leaf one, and then this is cabbage leaf, which has bigger flat leaves. The idea was like, look, they'll cross-pollinate and I'll get to taste the berries, but it has not happened thus far. So I think I'm gonna rip this out and put the wild ginger over here, a native plant. And these are the new kiwi vines that are gonna go in on those two arches. All right, now that's it. All right, have a good one. Bye.